decorations and all, walked around several city blocks and went to all the different tailgate parties and all, and people would come up, they'd make comments. And the one thing I really noticed today, more than usual, was how much mocking and scoffing that there was at just the very idea of Jesus or salvation or righteousness. And the people were taking so much pride. Everywhere I went, people were, in these parking lots, people would come up and they were bragging about their sin. They were bragging about their sex life. They were bragging about their drunkenness, bragging about being an atheist, bragging about being a homosexual, bragging and taking great pleasure and pride in their sin. And here we are. This is the Bible Belt of America. We're in the Bible. There's one telling me to shut up here in the Bible Belt of America, preaching the gospel. 70,000 people going into the stadium for frivolous entertainment, and 5 people out here telling you about salvation and how to get right with God. And you don't want to hear it. Not only do you not want to hear about God, but you take great pride in all of the sin and debauchery that's in your life. When you know you have all the knowledge you need about how to be saved, it's not a lack of knowledge, it's a lack of willingness. And of course, we had a guy come up to us and tell us he's a pastor of a church and how we're doing it wrong and how we should you can get more flies with honey than you can with vinegar or whatever, that we should just talk to people one-on-one. This pastor, instead of talking to 70,000 people who take great pride in their sin, who might die this very night from a drunk driver, instead of actually going and talking to them, he wants to come up, this quote-unquote pastor wants to come up and tell us how we're doing it wrong, and that Jesus only talked to people one-on-one, and Jesus never shouted. Now, I reminded him of the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus was speaking to thousands of people on that mountainside. And I said, wasn't he shouting then? He had no PA system, he had no bullhorn. How did he talk to 5,000 or more people without shouting? He said, well, he just spoke in a conversational tone, but it was a miracle. It was a miracle of God that they all heard him. That's nonsense. That's ridiculousness. The Bible never says that. Now, Jesus himself said, what you heard whispered in the ear, proclaim from the housetops. In the book of Isaiah, it says, cry aloud, spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgressions, and the house of Jacob their sins. So the professing pastor of a church, he obviously doesn't have enough discernment to know, like the rest of us do, that time is running out. Do you understand? Time is running out. The mark of the beast is right around the corner, folks. Jesus' return is imminent. I never used to preach that. I used to preach that it was possible that it was near, until this whole coronavirus nonsense and the lockdowns and all the government control came about, even in countries that have always been free, like America and Australia. But the pastor obviously didn't have enough discernment to know that the times are running short. And he obviously doesn't have eyes to see that the people, even in the Bible Belt of America, are taking great joy in their sin. The problem, he's like, well, Jesus just spoke to people one-on-one. Jesus just talked. He never shouted, never did anything else. So we should just talk to people one-on-one and never shout. We're wrong for shouting. As they're going into a football stadium where there will be 70,000 fans, half rooting for Panthers, half rooting for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, there will be 70,000 people in that stadium shouting for guys running around today, and one of the teams, let's say Wake Forest scores a touchdown. Yeah, Wake Forest scores a touchdown, and all the Wake Forest fans shout and stand up and jump, and they shout and scream and cheer and high five for each other. Is that pastor going to tell all the Wake Forest fans, hey, don't shout, hey, let's just discuss the touchdown in a one-on-one conversation. One-on-one conversation. Hey, let's keep it down, and let's just tell them, don't worry, Pitt fans. Hey, Pitt fans, don't be angry about that Wake Forest touchdown. Wake Forest loves you. Wake Forest loves you and has a wonderful plan for your team. Wake Forest doesn't want to beat you today. Wake Forest loves you and has a wonderful plan for your team. Don't shout out there today, folks. Let's have a one-on-one conversation about the benefits of that touchdown. Let's do that. No nonsense. That guy's going to be in that stadium along with 70,000 other people shouting and screaming and high-fiving, having the time of their life over something that in the end, days or months or especially years from now, really means nothing at all. Folks, I'm telling you, have some discernment. Read the Bible. People will say, oh, I read the Bible every day. Oh, you're a bunch of liars. These people are out here getting drunk and brag about their sex life and that they're a homo and an atheist. Guys like that. Are you drunk tonight, sir? Yeah, see, potty mouth, drunkard, taking pride in their sin. Yeah, he says when I ask if they're getting drunk. Well, let me just go over and give them a little Jesus loves you sticker. I'm sure that'll end his foul mouth and his debauchery and drunkenness. No. That guy knows that drunkenness is wrong. He knows who Jesus is. If I went over and asked that guy if he knows who Jesus is, I guarantee you he would know. Heck, who knows? His dad or his granddad's probably a pastor. We're down here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Every third person has a granddad that's a pastor somewhere. That guy knows about Jesus and he knows that drunkenness is a sin, but he doesn't care. He wants the temporary gratification of the flesh over obedience to Jesus Christ. And he's going to be in that stadium cheering for his team, whichever side he's on. He's not going to be out there having one-on-one low-brow conversations about touchdowns and a field goal to win the game with 2 seconds left. No, but have some discernment, folks. Is there any discernment out there on the street? Do you have discernment enough to understand that these times we're living in, these could be the end times, or we may be just one generation. Maybe Jesus won't return in my lifetime, but I think it's very, very likely that he'll return at least in my kid's lifetime. I think we're seeing either the last generation or the next to last generation out there. We're one step away from the mark of the beast. Get right with God before it's too late. Pour out your booze. Stop your potty mouth. Turn off the porn, for crying out loud. Get right with God. Stop your sex outside of marriage. Stop your adulterous affairs. Stop it and get right with God. Have some concern for your own eternal soul. What a shame it would be if the 5 people out here on the corner who've never met you care more about your own eternal soul than you do. Isn't that sad? Do 5 people out here on the corner care more about your soul than you do? Have some concern for your soul. The Bible says, cleanse your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, you double-minded. Lament and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourself in the sight of God and he will lift you up. So when you're in there tonight and you're screaming and cheering for Wake Forest scoring a touchdown, or you're in there and Pitt scores a field goal with no time left to win the game, you need to understand when you're shouting and screaming, there's really only one that's worthy of our shouts and our praise. The Bible says our God is known by the judgment he executes. Are you girls having sex outside of marriage? Are you getting drunk tonight? Are you going to have sex with some guy who doesn't care about you at all and then abort the baby that you end up with because you don't even remember the guy's name? What a shame it would be. What a shame. What a shame it would be. Have some concern for your own soul.